Hey everyone, welcome to the Wild and Uncut Podcast, brought to you by Ruger. I'm your host, Kristy Titus. Thank you for tuning in. The line is going hot, so let's go full send on this episode. In a world where rugged and reliable matters, Ruger stands strong. Celebrating 75 years of American-made craftsmanship, Ruger continues to set the standard for excellence in firearms. From the iconic 10/22 to the American rifle and beyond, each firearm embodies precision engineering and our deep-rooted traditions. Join us in honoring a legacy built on strength, innovation, and the American spirit. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of the Wild Uncut Podcast. I'm here with Randy Newberg, who needs no introduction. And so we're preemptively talking camera gear. I am here because of you. I have to give you full disclosure credit.
You mean on the podcast?
Period. My career. So you're so nice. I just want to put this out there. In 2016, Steve Decker called me, who's now he's one of the big dogs here at RMEF, his dad's co-founder. I heard his official title earlier, but he sounded like an accountant, which you are.
I know, he's something, isn't he? Chief of monetization.
I don't know.
It sounds like money.
It sounds like he's an accountant.
Yeah.
We both do math on our fingers still. So Steve calls me in 2016 and says, look, Kristy, we're pulling off linear TV. We're going to do this whole digital network. And at that time, I was co-hosting T-Milk with Brandon Bates. And so Steve's like, well, this might be a good opportunity for you to do your own thing. So I called you because you were the only person I knew. And you were wildly successful in the digital space.
Yeah. Well, you need a bigger Rolodex, it sounds like, Kristy.
No, I have the perfect Rolodex, actually. I called the right person. And you are so nice. You literally spent an hour on the phone with me. Yeah. You walked me through how you post on YouTube and what you do. You gave me all these tips on how you run your business. And I literally copied you.
Well...
The Randy model is what I call it. I used the Randy model, and I filmed season 8 this year.
Well, I think you're being very generous
and
overly humble. I appreciate you the attribution there, but everyone knows who you are, what you do, how good you do it, the message you have. So that was going to take care of itself. For you to give me any credit towards this is saying that because someone opened the door at the Super Bowl, that's why somebody won the Super Bowl.
I did not win the Super Bowl, okay? I'm very blessed, but I would not have had a clue on where to even start. It's once you start, there's so many people that say, I want to have a TV show, I want to be in TV.
Yep.
It's a business. It has to be treated as a business. You have to have a business model, a business plan, objectives, deliverables, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And you ran me through this playbook over the course of an hour on, okay, well, you need to do this, and you need to look at that, and da-da-da-da. And it literally was like an hour. That's a long time.
It might have been an hour. But I enjoyed it.
And here we are. And then flash forward, I don't know how many years, 5 years later, I'm at a trade show in Oregon.
In Bend, Oregon.
Yes. And Randy's like, oh, you don't have a podcast, huh? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, Kristy. You remember the conversation.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah, and here we are.
At
NFR, at Hunter Outdoor Christmas, at the RMEF booth, podcasting.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
So you have really single-handedly sculpted my business.
You are so nice.
It is a fact.
All of you who follow her know that she's one of the nicest people on this planet, and whatever credit she deserves, she's quick to deflect to everybody else.
It's not me. It was you. But,
super talented.
What you do, though, for, not only just me and my business space, but you provide that same insight to hunters.
Try.
And I think that's really what kind of sets you apart. Some people hate you because you are overly transparent.
Yeah. That's all right.
We can't make trust me, there's plenty that hate me too, obviously. We know this. But you can't make everybody happy, but you're so transparent and you're so honest. Like if somebody calls you up and is like, hey, I drew this tag and you're like, hey, here's my experience.
Yeah.
And
no, I think that comes from a couple things. One is in my real life, I'm a CPA.
Yes.
So after 35 years of being a CPA, you kind of got in the mode of helping people, right? It's not like I'm going to send them an invoice like I would in my CPA firm.
Well, you could. For me, specifically, I probably owe you.
But whether it's someone like you let's face it, this sharing goes both ways. There's times I've leaned on you or asked you questions, and you've been helpful.
The only thing that has been shared is a Dilly Bar, and that actually goes this direction as well. I'm just saying.
But I think my passion for helping people comes from being a CPA and watching how hard it is to be a small business owner in America. And I wanted to do everything I could for my clients to succeed. And so that came down to advice, sharing whatever I knew. Sometimes I didn't know, and I'd say I didn't know. The other part of it is growing up in a single-parent household. When my parents divorced when I was 11, something like that, my dad had to move away for work. So here's this person who I thought was going to be my mentor to the hunting space. And I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My mom has to take a job working as a waitress in a little diner in a town of 500 people. So we didn't have any money. And so I had to go figure it out myself. I mean, there were other people in town who helped, teach you a little bit here or there. But I had public land not far from our trailer house, so a half-mile walk, I was out hunting. And so hunting became this place where when my world was falling apart, right?
Yeah.
In 1974.
You don't have to name the year.
Okay. When I was 10 or 11, it wasn't a real common thing to come from a divorced household.
Yeah.
So I had this stigma around me about all that, and all the things about this traditional two-spouse household and all that was the thing at the time, and it all imploded on me. So the place where I went for sanity
was the outdoors.
Exactly. If I wanted to make sense of something, I knew I could trust what I saw in the outdoors. It was this calming, peaceful influence. And so I know that my story is not unique in America.
Yeah.
It happens there. Just today, there's probably some quote-unquote Randy Newberg 11-year-olds walking around wishing they had a place to hunt or had someone to take them hunting. And so I realized how much hunting kept me from finding the trouble that was just around every corner. And so I'll never forget that. I'll never discount what that did to give me a productive life going forward when I could have taken other paths. And so I'm going to share what I can. So what you're saying is
you were concerned about my career ambitions, so you steered me.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, I had to turn that into a joke.
Back in the time before Kristy was even born, I was worried about, there's going to be this amazing woman hunter that's born, and I'm...
You are right, though, because when someone, especially young people, when they're actively involved in the outdoors and they have a goal and they have a purpose and they've learned the enriching experience from delayed gratification that we find in the field.
Yeah.
You get an adrenaline dump or dopamine dump, whatever you want to call it, when things come together. That's not comparative to anything else in life.
Nope.
And so, it is an addiction in a way, where you go from having other things on your mind to that sometimes single focused. And I feel it now. It's like gambling. When I'm out hunting, I'm like, one more sit, one more day, one more. It's really hard to walk away because it's such an incredible place to be, but it's a safe place to be.
Yeah. And the other thing, I anything that Mike Rowe does from Dirty Jobs, I'm really interested in how he's used his platforms as a way to maybe tell America, hey, wake up a little bit.
Yeah.
I come from a logging family, so I'm all about a hard day's work and not discounting just because what job somebody has doesn't matter to me.
No.
It's what they contribute and how hard they work and what kind of people they are. And one of the things he talks about is maybe we need to teach more real-life lessons to younger people. And there was no place that taught me more lessons I carried on later in life than hunting, right? 9 out of 10 times I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
A lot of people today grow up where, well, if you fail, we're still going to, we're going to give you a ribbon or whatever. There were so many things I couldn't control. I couldn't control the weather. I couldn't control the other hunters. I couldn't control what the animals did. Whereas in today's world, a lot of young people are taught that, don't worry, you couldn't control that. That's not your fault. So I could spend an hour rattling off all these life skills that I've carried with me because I was a hunter. And I want other people to go out and hunt, have those same failures, those same learning things, and develop those same life skills. So if people want to hack on me for, being, as you called it, too transparent or being willing to, encourage other people to get out in the field, knock yourself out. I'm unfazed by that. If anything, it causes me to say, all right, I guess I'm just going to do more of it.
I'm not mad at it, Randy. I have 100% benefited from your intellectual generosity. So
you are so
if you would do my taxes now, things would be great.
No, my wife is looking for a better accountant at this time. When she saw last year's tax return, she said, you think we should go hire your old partners to do our tax return now that you've quit the firm? I'm like, honey, come on, man, that's like a low blow.
Doing? That's pretty funny.
So I just think that in today's world, there's a lot of things that are different than when I grew up, maybe when you grew up, that, even selfishness / generosity / whatever term you want to put to it, hunting and conservation teaches you that you can always give something more to the bigger piece. And I think hunters, if they kind of follow the path that you and I followed, that becomes part of their ethos also. And I think America is a better place when we have people who, they might volunteer for the school board or for their church function or Little League or Hunter Ed or whatever it is. And you learn that stuff in hunting. And I know people are like, Newberg, you think the whole world revolves around hunting. No, it doesn't, but my world does.
Amen. Yeah, I was just going to say the whole world might not revolve around it, but some worlds do.
Yeah.
And that, that's yours.
And I think if every one of our audience members, whether it's podcasts or the video we produce, thought about what life skills they have and how hunting influenced that, they would say, that I didn't realize how important hunting was and who I am as a person today. My wife is so good at pointing those out to me. So a lot of people were asking, we were at an event like this, and they said, Randy, why are you so addicted to grouse hunting? You will be chasing elk and you'll stop to shoot a grouse. And I'm like, I know, I like to eat them. And my wife, she one time was standing there listening to me tell that story. And when the person walked away, she said, you're so full of crap. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, the reason that you are so addicted to grouse hunting is that's what you used to do when you were a kid when the world was falling down. And grouse hunting taught you a bunch of things. And she's heard the story about one time I came home and I had 2 grouse. And I'm 12 maybe. But my mom's still struggling to make ends meet. And I walk in the house and I hold up these 2 grouse. And my mom just about cried because we weren't going to eat potato salad that night. We were eating grouse. And I know this might sound over amplified, but as a 12-year-old, when you feel like you've contributed something in some way to make your mom's job easier, that meant a lot to me. And it takes my wife to point that out to me after all these years of me not seeing clearly why grouse hunting is such an attachment to who I am as a person. So I just think about hunting and what would my life be
if you didn't hunt?
If I didn't have that. And that's why you and I both are big fans of the Elk Foundation. We both do a lot of volunteering for them because we know this is one of those groups through its members and its volunteers that is putting a lot back there, putting more into it that is going to make it possible for future people, the Randys and the Kristys yet to come, who are going to get their chance to do that.
Well, I have an interesting connection on that. I kind of did some math today with Steve, which is impressive.
You had his fingers and your fingers.
Actually, I used my phone as a calculator. So, RMEF has conserved or enhanced 9 million acres. They just hit the 9 million. It's huge. And access is one of the number one reason that people don't hunt or quit hunting and so I did the math, the arithmetic, and I took that 9 million acres and divided it roughly by our membership, which is around 200,000.
Yeah.
And that means that each member has personally impacted statistically about 45 acres. Yeah. And if you were telling me a story offline before this podcast started, how you had went to Wyoming and you were hunting some small checkerboard public land, which I hunted Montana. I shot a deer in Montana on an 80-acre piece of public this year. So you and I have the same story with whitetail. We went on a tiny 80-acre chunk of public. We successfully harvested deer. And you think about that, that was 2 of our members.
Yeah.
That 80-acre parcel that we had access to, you and I both shot deer this year because of, if you think of the collective total of 4 people and you think about, I'm only one person, I can't make a difference. Yeah. But you do the math on it, and 4 people made sure that we got deer this year.
Right. Yeah,
right? If you look at it in that perspective.
Yeah.
And so it is impactful, and it does matter when you join an organization like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, because it does provide opportunity. And we, living out west, you don't have to have thousands of acres. It's sure nice.
Right.
But there is occasions when 80 acres can be the sweet spot.
It can.
Heck, we shot deer a couple of years ago, my first year as a Wyoming resident, and there was literally like a 10 or 15 acre section of river bottom that touched public, and the rest was all just sagebrush and rolling grass. Yeah. Yogi and I both shot whitetail deer on that 10-acre section public. There was one little stretch of good deer habitat that adjoined some private, and we both harvested deer there. And so it doesn't take it doesn't take a 9 million acres of access for people to be successful, but it takes the hundreds of thousands of members that we have that are willing to give back and contribute so that we all can have a better experience.
Right. Maybe I found your little 10 acres in that 80 acre piece.
I think you did. You did, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what
probably very similar. But it is, in Wyoming and Montana, we really struggled this year in Montana, and we used OnX tremendously, just finding those small sections and hunting and it's funny because one of those sections can be empty today, and you drive through tomorrow or later on in the afternoon and a hot doe moves through, and all of a sudden there's a buck on there, and so you end up covering a lot of miles. But it does show that our members are truly making a difference, and they're providing opportunity.
Yeah. That's the other thing about it. You hear this term, and sometimes it's overused, but you hear people say that the Elk Foundation is like a big family.
Yeah.
Charlie and Bob, 2 of the founders, have always said that, and they go out of their way to make it feel that way.
They do.
And I do feel that way. Like, you and I were standing here at the RMEF booth at Hunter and Outdoor Christmas, and how many people come up that this is when we see them every year. And, hey, how was your season? And how's this
Y'all
going?
Y'all are sharing stories and photos of...
Yeah. And, I see them at a lot of the events I volunteer for. You and I both get to, go to a lot of events and do stuff. And everybody there is just passionate about hunting, about conservation, about wild places, wild things. And that's why I just can't imagine a United States without the Elk Foundation or a United States without public land.
Oh,
my mind doesn't go there. It's like, no, this is too painful to even think about. So we're
so fortunate for the opportunities that we have, and I live where I live because I wanted more opportunity to hunt. Mm-hmm. And, that's one great thing about being an American is if the state we live in doesn't support our values, doesn't provide us the opportunities that we want to live out our dreams, then we can pick up and move.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Right. I mean, there might be a little disruption along the way, but you can do it.
Wyoming is really windy, so just for all of you that are considering it, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, the Duttons have bought all of Montana, so don't go there.
Nobody can afford Montana anymore either.
I know, it's crazy. I've never watched a minute of Yellowstone.
I watched part of the first season, and it was so far fetched.
Yeah.
That I was like, this is dumb. This is not. People are not murdering people and dumping them off the train station in Montana. Okay, I just want to put that out there.
Well,
it's not true.
I asked some people, said, well, what appeals to you about it? And they're telling me, I'm like, well, I'm trying to remember the last time we had a murder in Bozeman. It was a long, long time ago. And so I got asking the person, if you had to entice me to watch this show, how would you describe it? They said it's like The Sopranos meets Bonanza. I don't need to watch that.
I don't know. The Sopranos was slightly more believable, I feel like, because they hid the crime better.
Okay.
There was always the cleanup man that came in and made sure that the body was disintegrated. It just didn't go off the same chunk of bank. You know what I mean? People are gonna find it eventually off that bank there. I mean,
So I don't know.
Sopranos did a better job of that.
I'm just glad my wife and I moved to Bozeman
before the mad rush.
33 years ago, before Kevin Costner decided to be John Dutton. Is that his name, John Dutton?
Yeah, John Dutton. But Kevin Costner actually owns a place now in Sheridan, Wyoming, where I live.
He does. I'm going to throw him out. Get him out of
here.
He
actually bought there. So now we have the real Kevin Costner.
Really?
Yeah, you just have the movie star part. I have the real deal in our town. But you know how that goes.
In the heart of the wilderness, every step counts. No matter where or what you're hunting, OnX Hunt Elite has you covered in the U.S. and Canada with offline capability, land ownership, 3D mapping, and you can even access specialty courses, hunt research tools, and elite-specific features. No matter where you pursue the wild, adventure is assured when you upgrade to Elite for the ultimate hunting experience.
There are a lot of Americans that understand the value of hunting, but we all know that right now, national support of hunting is extremely volatile. It seems that with every passing day, our voice is diminished and the court of public opinion is not effectively hearing our side. We need advocates working on our behalf in Washington, D.C. to defend our freedom to hunt. And thankfully, when we need it the most, we have that advocate in Safari Club International. SCI's world headquarters are located in Washington, D.C., just blocks from the United States Capitol, which means that SCI is on the ground with our congressional leaders and federal agencies on our behalf, on behalf of the hunting community. SCI has an active political presence in all 50 states through their extensive chapter network and government affairs staff. If you have ever wondered why you should be a member of SCI, you shouldn't wonder anymore. Join us in the fight to defend hunting. Go to safariclub.org to learn more.
When I moved to Bozeman in 1991, one of the first things I did is I joined the local committee of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And through that, I met some great people, felt like I was making a difference. And a big thing happened in 1993. Montana had a railroad, or we had a railroad that left Bozeman, headed south towards Big Sky. And that was all checkerboard because of the old railroad grants. Well, some guys came and bought it from Plum Creek, and what had been private land of Plum Creek was open to hunting. We could hunt the land itself. We had all these trails that went across their land. Well, these other guys came and bought it, and they said, next year you're not going to get to hunt that. We're closing it all. So we're talking, I think, 40, 50,000 acres between their deeded and then what the public was going to lose access to. Well, the Elk Foundation and some other groups, but mostly the Elk Foundation, led the charge to do a big land exchange that consolidated that. It took 3 land exchanges to get it done, Gallatin 1, 2, and 3, over the course of 93 through 98, I think it was. And the net result was the public ended up with access to 70-some thousand more acres than we had before.
Yeah.
And that just struck me so powerfully about what the Elk Foundation stood for, what they were able to accomplish, and how me being on just a local committee, helping out, raising money, volunteering for that.
What it was doing for your community.
Exactly. And so all that land is still open to public hunting. In fact, they've done a bunch more work just in my backyard. Not I say my backyard, makes it sound like in my backyard. I mean within areas that I can drive a few
that's
few
Western
hours.
Speak. 4 hours is just down the road.
There you go.
You know how that works. So your backyard's, within 2 hours-ish.
And so there's really not an organization I can think of that has done so much to impact what I'm able to enjoy in hunting and public land and stuff like that. And so I'm a walking billboard for the Elk Foundation because of those things, not for any reason other than they've done so much that I've benefited from. I want other people to think about and know how much they've probably benefited from it. So, that's the story. It has nothing to do with Kevin Costner. Has to do with my wife's fishing addiction. And so this will tell you who wears the pants at my house, right? Now, not that anyone doubted this, but on our honeymoon, we go to Bozeman in 1989 because she loves to fish. We're going to go from there around northern Idaho, and we're going to go to all the classic Rocky Mountain fishing places. Well, the fishing's so good every day. She's like, well, let's stay here one more day.
Oh, she's a junkie. Yeah.
We spend our whole honeymoon in Bozeman, sleeping in a tent out off the banks of the Madison River. And on our way home, we're living in Carson City, Nevada at the time. She turns to me and she says, I'm moving here. You coming with? We just got married and I already got the ultimatum. And here's how dumb I was at 24. I'm kind of put my hands on my hip like, well, who's going to wear the pants around here? And then I turn around, I'm doing fist pumps like, yeah.
You moved.
So we moved. We took 40% pay cuts.
40% pay cuts?
Yeah, to live in a place where I knew I could get an elk tag every year.
I felt the same way when I saw Wyoming the first time. I went out there for the Wyoming women's antelope hunt.
Okay.
And Ruger sent me, and I went with a woman. I mentored a woman whose husband had been killed in the line of duty as a police officer, and told her story, but mostly telling the story about how incredible that camp is because they take over 43 women antelope hunting in 2 days. It's incredible. Wow. When I saw the Bighorn Mountains, I literally, and I met the people. The governor was there, the representatives from the state were there, the community was there, and the people I'd never met people like that, and also have a local government that supported my values. Mm-hmm. I literally phoned my parents and I was like, I'm moving to Wyoming. Are you guys with me or not? It was the same phone call. And that was in October. In December, my dad flew with me. We went to Wyoming, started property shopping, and by April, I moved.
Wow. Cool.
It was the same thing.
Yeah.
It was, and my parents moved their business, their employees.
They moved there also?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The whole family moved.
The whole family is there now.
Well, they're in Casper, which is really windy.
Oh, yeah.
So we all moved. And it was, for me, it was having that opportunity, constitutional carry, right to hunt and fish.
Yeah.
And great hunting seasons and no people. It's very, very remote. And it was just the perfect fit. And so, if you do really love the outdoors, it doesn't hurt to live in a place that supports that lifestyle. No. And your wife was smart. She actually did. You know what? She's the best investment advice you ever got given.
Oh,
I mean, she
absolutely.
was passive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're supposed to be the accountant around here.
I
don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's another little secret: is my wife, when we got married, was making twice what I was making.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing either.
No, I married a sugar mama.
Yeah. That's right.
And she always reminds me of that. She's like, "You married me for my money."
That's right.
I'm like, well, yeah, but you told me before we got married that your goal in life was to be a stay-at-home mom, so I knew that the money train was going to dry up.
That's so funny. Did she do stay-at-home mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
So then she's like, hey, Randy, you got to
pick it up at the CPA firm here. Yeah. No, that was a great
introduction to Randy becoming a professional hunter. It was not for the money, just for those of you that are paying attention, because you're not getting rich from professional hunting.
There's a Vegas connect. We're sitting in Vegas right now. My wife is from Vegas. So we met in Carson City, Nevada. And I didn't know how she was going to handle the winters in Montana. And she loves it. We were there a year, and I remember, I don't know what brought it up, but one day I came home and she said, if you plan on moving ever again, you're going by yourself.
She loves it that much.
Yeah, and she, to this day, she still loves it. She's like, you know what? We quit great jobs, had great futures ahead in our careers, but it was the best thing we ever did. And I often wonder how if we would have waited any longer, right? We moved there in our I think I was 26 and she was 20. I don't know. I better not say. People know how old she is. But anyhow, because I've learned this in 35 years of marriage. You never tell anyone how old your wife is. But
I don't tell anybody either.
So I wonder, if we would have waited 10 years, would you make that decision once you're further ticked in somewhere?
Etched into a lifestyle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now I think about how dumb and young we were.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much fun to think about, is we had no idea what we were getting into. And if we had, I don't know that we would have done it.
So what made you get into a TV show?
So going back to that land trade.
Going back to that young and dumb thing.
Going back to that land trade thing, I ended up, for whatever reason, being the spokesperson for the hunters on all these things in Montana. In college, I took 2 years of business and professional speaking. So all the hunting groups are like, Newberg, you speak really well in public. You may not know anything, but we're gonna give you the script. You're gonna read it. So I ended up being involved in a lot of that, and I ended up being asked to go back to Washington, D.C. and lobby on a lot of stuff. And
this could have gone real the wrong way for you. You could have ended up as a professional lobbyist.
Yeah, that would never have worked for me. A little bit of DC goes a long ways. So I started going back there, working on deals related to public lands and stuff. And me and all my friends, we hunted on public land. Well, I started learning about all these efforts to get rid of public land or sell public land. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. And I even at times would bump into folks who are somewhat in the hunting community who are there saying, yeah, we can get rid of that. That's no big deal. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I need a bigger voice. Mm-hmm. And me being just a guy in Bozeman, Montana, I'm never going to move the needle. Mm-hmm. So I talked to a couple of my friends and said, this is what I'm going to do. And at the time, I got diagnosed with a really rare liver condition, so I had to slow down at the CPA firm. I had to figure out something else to do. And my wife told me, you better find something else to do. We'll be divorced because I can't have you underfoot all the time. Yeah. And so I started that, and it was all about public land hunting. And I thought, well, I'll do this for 3 or 4 years, and it'll be a flash in the pan, but it'll give me a voice and some credibility, so when I go to D.C., maybe I can have a little more influence. Little did I know that the hunting community was waiting for a self-guided public land platform to come along. I thought there would be, but I had no idea people would support us the way they have. And so it became my outlet for how I could do something that was important to me, public lands and conservation. And that's how I got into it.
And here we are.
Yeah, and my wife always warned me, don't quit your day job, buddy.
Yeah, and you actually did retire, though.
I did. I quit the CPA firm. My wife, and this, I wish she was here, Kristy, so she could take credit for all this. But here's another thing. Yeah, here's another thing she said when I started this. She said, look, I'm all in on this because I love to hunt and fish, and we moved here for this, but this cannot become our livelihood because you will go all in to such a degree, it'll create stresses and you'll grow to hate it. And if you hated hunting, no one could live with you.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, whatever, honey. So I kept working at the CPA firm. We started these platforms in 2008. I stayed at the CPA firm till 2020. So for 12 and a half years, I did both. And so the times you'd see me with bags under my eyes and looking like I hadn't slept for a month. Maybe I hadn't slept for a month. But so in 2020, we looked at it and said, you know what?
Let's not do this anymore.
Yeah, let's not put ourselves through this. We're in a situation where you can just do what's fun. And if this is what your fun is, go do it.
And you have a sugar mama for a wife, so that helps.
Yeah. Now that she's a stay-at-home mom, boy, she makes a hell of a living, let me tell you. But no, it is because of her that I can be gone as long as I am. She handles so much of my logistics and my emails and other stuff. That
she holds the fort down.
She runs the joint.
Yeah.
She's like, this is what you do. Do this, do that. Tell them what I'm thinking.
That's incredible that you have such a great partnership with your spouse, and that it is hard. You have to have, it takes help especially when you have a family. With me, I don't have a family, so it's a lot easier.
Right.
But I love that you started us out with this passion and a love of the outdoors, but it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And the whole TV world hasn't changed you either. You're still out there like the rest of us, grinding it on public land and win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes.
It's
I watched one of your hunts, and it was like you're like, oh, we were hunting in this elk. Oh, the elk just got shot. Oh. And it's like in the episode, because how many of us have been there? We're like, oh, we're hunting the elk. Oh, nope.
Yep.
Nope. Someone else just shot it.
No, we've had that happen quite a few times.
It's so real.
It is. It happens. And I think that's maybe the part of hunting that is so much fun that at the time maybe it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But it creates story and memory. And, I think about the time I got my truck stuck in Nevada. Who would think that there's a spring coming out of the ground in Nevada, right? But there's snow over it and it's frozen. When my truck got in that, it just sank.
Oh, no.
And, well, there goes a day and a half of elk hunting. And at the time, it's really frustrating. It's like, oh, it's so stupid. Why didn't I see that, blah, blah, blah. But no, me and the guys who we're with, it's just a great memory. And
it's just part of the story.
Yeah.
It becomes part of the experience. And I think those experiences, like you're talking about, they sculpt your character for lifelong reasons. But also, they are kind of type 2 fun memories you look back on and you're like, let's do it again. I don't want to get stuck in that same spot, but I'd go back there.
Yeah. No, I think the other part of it is the people we meet. I don't know what it is, but I can go to a Christmas party, a dinner party, and there might only be 3 people in the room who hunt. Somehow, the 3 of us end up at the same little
place.
table among 200 guests there talking hunting. I can't explain how it is that hunters just find each other, and I don't know if it's our demeanor, our language, the way we operate or whatever, but we end up finding each other, and when we do, we have so much in common. And if there's one thing that I probably worry about with social media and all the way we communicate these days is we don't necessarily communicate face-to-face anymore. We communicate digitally. And when you communicate face-to-face, I don't care if it's a landowner, a hunter, whoever, an outfitter, a game warden. We have 99% of the things we all share in common. But when you're digitally and you can be a little more anonymous, it opens up this gate of criticism and like, oh, this is what I do, or I wouldn't have done that, or whatever. And I don't think that's good for society as a total, and I don't think it's good for hunting. And that's one of the things that I love about you is you're so humble, and again, you're always willing to share, but you're also willing to listen to people too. You never have this, oh, I'm in a hurry. Step aside. You're very generous with your time. For example, he's here with me right now, and it's a very busy week in Vegas, and you had meetings all day. Yeah, but
and you were like, you're so generous with your time. You're here.
When Kristy asks me to do something, I clear the calendar. It's like, this is Kristy Titus. I am coming to do that.
I am wearing boots, so I can step in it, so that's fine.
No, I think the reason I always enjoy visiting with you and
it's a great community of hunters, and it's good to be able to reach a platform where you can talk to maybe somebody that's never heard your story before, or maybe they've never tuned into your podcast or heard of Outdoor Class, and so I want to I want to invite people because you are so generous with your information, and there's a lot of people out there that, especially ladies, like I'm in this weird age where you can either be like a new mom, like a mom with adult kids, or a grandma. So like I've got all of these women in my age. So some of my friends are having babies and some of my friends are grandmothers. But my friends that are grandmothers are like, what do I do with my time? What do I? And so they're always looking for like resources on how do I get started? Where do I go? And from a non-disparaging place, because there's a lot of, well, little gal, and I've heard it so many times from guys. Well, if you just come hunt with me, I'll show you where the big deer are. And I'm like, okay, but you don't have that approach. So you provide a great resource that's non-disparaging for anybody, whether you're the most advanced level of hunter or a new hunter.
Yeah, I try. I mean, a big part of what's in my content about education and teaching is just the mistakes I've made.
Yeah.
If you get to hunt a lot and you try hard, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I try to convert those into learning points.
Yeah.
That's why I have such a large volume of content about teaching, because I've made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's super important in today's world, because as our society and cultures have grown the way they have, the opportunity for a kid or a young hunter in their early 20s to go and interact with someone in person who might be that, I don't know if mentor is the right word, but at least someone with some experiences that they could learn from, that's getting less and less.
Yeah, and even like store events. Like if you look at, retail chains that used to do a ton of in-person seminars, and that was the only place you could learn. Mm-hmm. Now it's all digital. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to do a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or whatever. So to the degree that technology can be embraced to the benefit of doing that stuff, that's why RMEF and their outdoor class, I just do whatever I can there. We do a ton of content around that. We do podcasts around that stuff. And I'm a aging, gray-haired accountant who drives a desk for a living. I'm not anyone's gift to hunting.
I drive a mule. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take it. You drive a desk, I'll drive the mule.
Okay. But
we're not getting anywhere.
So I don't have any false impressions about me being some gym rat, some mountain machine or anything. But I feel that.
But I have seen you working out with Mountain Tough, and you have been laying off the dilly bars.
I've lost about 10 or 12 pounds, and I feel leaner and better. But the point of that is, I don't want people to think just because you and I have platforms that we don't have it all figured out, right? No. We show our mistakes, we talk about them, and hopefully that gives people makes us a little more approachable and a little more trusted.
Yeah, because it's not just the highlight reel.
Yeah. And I think if people can trust us that what we say is real and we're concerned about them and we want them to have, a great life in the outdoors, I think that goes a long ways in today's world. And another thing I have as a lesson or a rule on my platforms, I don't care if it's my YouTube channel, my Hunt Talk forum, my whatever, where audiences can engage. If you show up here to have a bad time, you're out of here.
Yeah.
People have enough of that in their life. And I'm all about smiles and good times. Mm-hmm. And if you want to have a bad time, go join some Facebook group and argue with them. Mm-hmm. But don't come here and try to make the rest of my audience have a bad day.
Yeah.
So I think my audience appreciates that also, and they get a few jokes out of like the Mountain Tough workout thing.
That was
you want to
so
talk
funny.
About being vulnerable. My legs have not seen, as you saw, I have not seen the sun for 50 years. The only thing whiter than my legs is my hair, and when you're in your late 50s, you're not the Napa guy with all the right parts in all the right places. You look like Randy. You're getting older, man. So you really feel vulnerable when you do that. But at least for guys, if you got vanity after about age 40, you might want to just hang it up. So I think those kind of things of just being who I am and being
If you guys haven't seen his spoof videos he does with Mountain Tough, it's actually hilarious, where he like works out and they catch him in the car with the ice cream like halfway to his mouth, and they're like in the back seat, they're like watching you. I mean, it's really hilarious. It's ridiculous, actually. Those were but it is true, because I mean, for a lot of Western big game hunting, it can be extremely physical, and it can be very intimidating. Well, you don't have to be the best.
No.
You should be your best.
That's a great way to put it.
That's the difference is trying to be your best, whether you're, learning with outdoor class, you can learn survival skills, you can learn marksmanship skills, you can learn elk calling skills, you can learn glassing techniques, e-scouting techniques, scouting techniques, all of these things. It's not about being the best, it's about, really opening up your horizons and being the best you can be.
Yeah. Is that, did you copyright that?
What?
Because I might steal that line. You don't have to be the best, just be your best.
I'm going to copyright it now.
You should. Did you just make that up on the fly?
I just came up with it, yeah.
Whoa.
Man,
I'm this is
witty,
talent
Randy.
right here. This is like, you need to write that down.
Oh my gosh.
Kristy Titus, December 2024.
Yeah.
Don't worry about being the best. Worry about being your best.
We're going to make a meme out of that now,
There
and
you
it's going to be
go.
with a sunset. You guys can imagine which ones I'm talking about that are on your news feed on social media, where there's a really profound quote attached to some scenic photo. We're going to do that.
It's going to say Kristy Titus,
Yeah, and
December
it's going to have me
2024.
like rucking a backpack with a mule deer head on the back or something.
300 years from now, whatever platforms are
enshrined.
used, they're going to
We're gonna go
attribute
scribe
one
it
of
into the
these
side of the building.
inspirational statements to Kristy Titus.
That's funny.
Be your best, not the best.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if your best is the best, well, all the bester.
Well, we only have so much to give.
Yeah.
So I've got some friends, Jim and Leanne Craig, and they are in their late
they're
80s.
wonderful. Yeah.
Jim is an incredible man.
Yep.
And he's I think he's 85, and he's still sheep hunting.
Yeah.
And he'll climb on a horse, and the amount of suffering that man can endure.
Yeah.
Is
It's been mauled by a grizzly bear.
Oh yeah, compound fracture on his leg, and they're like grandparents to me. Leanne came out to Wyoming this fall and
cool.
harvested antelope.
Oh, that's so great.
She went caribou hunting this year, and she was so mad she didn't get a caribou.
Oh, yeah.
But she has 2 hip replacements and 2 knee replacements, and she's literally like 90 pounds trying to walk across the mountain, and she's still trying. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I really think people, perspective too is we don't have to be Cameron Haynes.
Right.
I
never
can't run
will
that
be.
far. I can't run that far. I don't want to. I'm built for comfort, Randy. I am not built for speed. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. So we don't have to do that, but we can all, give it a shot.
Well, you bring up 2 great people, Jim and Leanne. They have done so much
For conservation.
I see them at the elk events. I see them at the
Sheep.
wild sheep events. I
Mule
see them
deer.
at every event. In their home in Indiana, they put on these youth hunting clinics.
I've taught at it numerous times.
Oh, have you?
Many times,
man.
yes.
They are just
The Craig family camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you think about what Jim and Leanne could do with their time and their money
Yes.
at this point in their lives, they're still all in on conservation. And that's, I think, when I was talking about how hunters seem to attract if you're at this Christmas party or whatever, Jim and Leanne are the epitome of conservation in America. They are such an example.
They won a Conservationist of the Year with RMEF one year.
They did, and so well deserved. And they have with a few other groups. And I'm glad you brought them up, because are they here?
No.
Okay.
I'll see them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll see them
Sheep
at
Show.
Sheep Show. I know that. And Leanne is always, she comes up and gives me the big hug.
Like my
and
grandparents. I can sit with Jim and Reg Collingwood in the recliners at Jim's house. You can sit there. We'll sit up till after midnight.
Oh, man.
Telling stories. And Jim's stories are, he's been hunting sheep since the 50s.
Yeah.
And they're just incredible people. But, I like for everybody to know, no matter your age, no matter what, hunting has a place for you.
Yes.
And there's a way that you can find. There's a will, there's a way, right? To get out there and hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. I just turned 60 last month, and everyone's like, Randy, you're not going to be able to elk hunt forever. What are you going to do when you can't elk hunt? I'm going to advocate for elk hunting. I'm going to help raise money for elk hunting.
That's right.
I'm going to do whatever I can because I'll reach that point. Maybe I don't know if I'll live as long as
you
Jim
can be like Jim
but
and be 85 and elk hunting.
I'm going to try.
I mean, I plan on it.
But I think everybody has something to contribute, and you only, until you just give up and walk away, that's when you stop contributing.
That's right.
In some way, shape, or form, we all have something to give. And
Amen.
And I'm glad you brought them up. They're such a wonderful example. Indiana, you guys have
I gotta
a
show you.
gem in
Remind
those
me
two.
to show you the deer Jim just killed in Indiana. He hadn't shot a deer in 30 years on his farm, and he killed a hammer this year.
Really?
Well, all he
good.
does is feed deer every year. He puts in these food plots and just watches the deer. They
And
go
let
out,
them go.
him and Leanne go out and sit in their deer blinds, and they never shoot them. They're like, well, there's just not a special one. Well, and they just wait and they just watch him. For 30 years, he's watched his deer, and he does, I'm talking, this is a big farm and food plots, and he finally took a deer this year.
Wow.
He's like, well, it's been 30 years, so much deserved.
Well
deer.
deserved, for
Yes.
sure.
And
but-
he has given so much to the wildlife and habitat, not only in his home state, but across the country. He's been transformative in the conservation movement and everything that they've given. They had a chapter in Indiana. They started the first chapter in Indiana for RMEF, and they're incredible people. We need more people like that.
Yeah.
And I think my hope for everybody that listens to your podcast or my podcast is that they realize that one person, two people, you can make a difference in the landscape. And, that's kind of what I was trying to say about being an RMEF member, collectively what we've done, because together we rise. And we have to stick together. This legislation we just overcame in Colorado in this last election cycle, we went from being way behind in the polls to coming up.
Yep.
And that's a collective voice. And I think people like you have transformed and given us a voice, Randy, because you've been a leader in that. In legacy media controlled the narrative, controlled everything, all the news, everything that was distributed. And this election with Trump and hunting politics and all of this, it really goes to show you that we have a voice as independent content producers of giving a different opinion that might not be put on the mainstream news. The good that comes from firearms through PR dollars, the good that comes from kids picking up a firearm and learning how to provide for their mother at 12 years old with a bird hunt.
Yeah.
And there's so much good that comes from guns and hunting that isn't told. And I think that makes us having social media and having a platform so important, but also just the everyday, all of us having that platform and all of us respectfully sharing the ethos of hunting, how hunting is conservation, because we are our own individual leaders in our communities.
Yeah. Do you think that it's great to bring up Colorado because everyone thought that was a foregone conclusion that we're going to get they're going to mop the field with hunters. And what it showed to me is when we quit arguing and fighting about trivial things like lighted knocks or how tall your tree stand can be, or we waste a lot of energy fighting with each other. Finally, some people grabbed the initiative and said, this is how we're going to focus our energy. This is really big. And everyone put down their little petty arguments, and look what we accomplished.
Yes. Big things.
Yeah. So
big things.
That was, to me, a pivot point in conservation, and I hope going forward we look back at it. But also,
I think there were some people that were, there were some groups out there that were a little complacent too, of saying, oh, well, that'll never get passed.
Yeah.
But we can't be complacent in the other capacity either, in thinking even Wyoming, the state is red, but Jackson County is blue.
Yeah.
We can't be complacent.
Yeah.
Even in the reddest of states and counties, whether you're talking about being on whatever side of whatever fence you're on, you have to continue to fight for your values.
Right. Yeah. And be professional, be persistent, and show up.
That's right.
That's people ask me, well, what can I do? Be
show
professional,
up.
Be persistent, and show up.
Yeah, and I think how it's represented on social media, how hunting is represented, the conversations we have around hunting are so important. Maria and I just did a black bear hunt in Louisiana, and the bears were just delisted. It's one of the first animals ever to be delisted from the endangered species list and returned to a completely huntable population. And we were hunting black bears last week, and the narrative on that, because it is a black bear, because it was on the ESL, could be so negative.
Yeah.
But the story behind how the federal and state and private people, landowners work together to take a species that was endangered and bring it back to flourishing populations. This is a testament of the work that we all do, and that we all support. Hunters support this. We want animals to flourish and grow and have healthy populations, because we want to be able to have the opportunity to experience those animals. And it was one of the things that we really had to work for, is explaining that it's also, there's no wanton waste. It's still consumed. It's still a food source. And so there's all these conversations around that hunt that could have went so negative. Because of the kind of high profile nature of it. But I really feel like it spun so positive. And it's important for us as hunters, when we do harvest, when we're out there in the field, that we are respectful and that we do show hunting in that positive light. And we do represent our harvest in a positive manner. And because there are people that are watching us that are not necessarily anti-hunters, but they're non-hunters. And we want them on our side. We want them in the ballot box. We want them conserving and enhancing through, going to an RMEF banquet and seeing what we do on the ground and being a part of our mission and our movement. It's so important that we activate, recruit, and then retain what we already have.
Well, there's an old saying in I can't remember who said it, but if you don't tell your story, someone's going to tell it for you.
And it might not be the way you want it told.
Exactly. And I think a story like Louisiana black bear hunting or anything. And so for those of us who have platforms, we understand that. So we're out there trying to tell that story about hunting. And I think it's imperative that we all do our best to tell these stories in the way that sheds the best light on hunting and on our love for wild places and wild things. And I think the majority of the people I deal with in our space really take that seriously.
Yes, I agree.
And if they don't, they're not around for long. And that's good. We don't need people shooting holes in the boat. we got a big job ahead of us to just keep society, as society becomes more urbanized and less connected to their own food. It's a hard job to explain to them why I care so much about elk when I'm going to shoot one of them. Why? Because that's what I eat.
That's right.
If you come to my house, I hope you're ready for walleyes or salmon or elk or mule deer or pronghorn. Because that's what you're going to get.
Trout from your wife.
And so a lot of people ask me, well, how can you be that passionate about it? Well, why does a farmer care so much about what their field is and what their land is? Because that's where it comes from. Why do you care? Why do you go to the grocery store and read the label and worry about what that is? Because that's what you're going to eat. Well, this is where I get majority of what I eat comes from my hunting, and
not only that, as we've learned, it's also your space to recenter and regroup.
Your mental
and
health.
It's for your mind, body, soul, the whole thing. It's not just about the harvest.
I think most hunters are not the least bit surprised when we read all these new studies coming out that time spent in the wild is great for your mental health. We're like, duh.
Turn off your cell phone. Really?
That's not anything you needed to do a study for. We're glad you did it, and we're going to use it as evidence for the benefits of being in the outdoors. But it just keeps getting back to the point that drives my life and my platforms is there's so many things beyond or that are part of the hunt that extend beyond what's maybe visible that make me who I am, make my community who we are, make our relationship and the relationship we have with our fellow members, whether they're RMEF members or wherever. Hunting is just that core of what it is, and it has so many other pieces to it that I just, that's who I am.
If people want to follow more of what you're doing, where do you send them? I know you got hunttalk.com radio.
Yeah. So if you go to hunttalk.com, that's a big forum. It has links to our YouTube channel, to our podcasts. I do the Elk Talk podcast with Corey Jacobson that RMEF is part of. I do the Hunt Talk radio podcast. I'm on all the normal social medias, but this is confession, Kristy.
Randy Newberg Hunter.
Yeah, but if you were to, I got my phone up. if you were to ask me how to do anything other than hit that Instagram button, I wouldn't know how to do it. You don't know.
He has the app. I'm just wanting to let everybody know he does have the Instagram.
Yeah. So like when I go to here, I get these messages up here in the upper right. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with those.
Well, so Go Hunt sent a reel, and then Nosler mentioned you, so you can tap on that. They mentioned you in their story. So then you can actually press this button and add it to your story.
Add to
See, now this is your page, and you can make this big. And
see, I didn't know I could do that.
And then you can go, boop.
Your story.
You just shared their story on your story.
Is that like a reel?
It's just a picture they posted. So now when you go out here and you click on you, look it's uploading it, and there it is.
See, I don't know how.
Now you just promoted Nosler, and you didn't even know.
I don't know how to do any of this stuff, so I have my crew do it. And I'll be out somewhere, and they'll be, if you take all these pictures with people, at least have them tag us. I'm like, well, what's that? What does that do?
What does that even mean?
Yeah. And so,
well, they tagged you. That's how you saw the picture.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I'm such a Luddite.
It's okay. That's what you have a team for.
Yeah, but I just am who I am.
Yes, and you're doing a great job.
Well, thanks for saying that. And thanks for all you do, Kristy.
Oh, man. This was fun. I could spend hours talking with you, actually.
Yeah, you're just way too humble for what you do. The amount of young people that you interact with. If you come to one of these events, especially young girls, I see how you take so much time with them. You'll be standing over there, and they just think the world of you because they know who you are and they're just the person you are. And you always have time for them.
Of course, yeah, I try to. At least sometimes my hair's on fire.
But you don't make it seem that way.
But, yeah, no, I love the young hunters, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and so keep being Kristy.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you making the time in this busy Vegas weekend. And for all of you listening and watching, if you haven't been to Las Vegas for the National Finals Rodeo, you need to come down. You've got to come to the Hunter and Outdoor Christmas at the Las Vegas Convention Center. It is upstairs from Cowboy Christmas. It is the best shopping in the world.
Yes.
So much fun, and rodeo fans, there's hunters. It's just our people that take over Vegas for a weekend, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you,
Randy,
Kristy,
for coming.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. All right, you guys, tune in to Randy Newberg. Hunter is his social media handle, and go to his website. Just go to hunttalk.com, and that will kind of take you into all things Randy. And if you go to rmef.org, check out the outdoor class for more content and educational information from Randy and other contributors as well. So you
make sure you follow Kristy wherever she is. Follow her on every platform she has, because
I do my own social media unlike
hunting.
Randy.
yeah. See, you're more talented than I am by far. So hunting needs more Kristy Tituses of the world.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
When conditions get tough on a mountain hunt, your gear must be tougher. Making every opportunity count means selecting equipment that will not fail. Any condition, anywhere, Hornady Outfitter ammunition is designed to perform. Available in a wide range of cartridges from .243 to .375 Ruger. When you're looking for a hard-hitting, deep-penetrating bullet and cartridge that performs in the most rugged environments, look no further than Hornady Outfitter ammunition. Thank you for listening to the Wild and Uncut Podcast. If you would like to hear more, be sure to subscribe to my Pursue the Wild digital series on YouTube and follow me at Kristy Titus on Facebook and Instagram.